Prasanna is going to introduce the next speaker, Mr. Vishal Kapoor. Prasanna.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks for all the glued audience who's been so patient. See, generally, you know what happens in this meeting, I was called for a minute for an offline discussion. And they see a lot of sense that is prevailing inside the auditorium. So obviously, who can give that nonsense value addition? None other than me. So that is why I've been invited myself to volunteer this. See, how many of us know this gentleman, Hrithik Roshan? What brought him into the limelight? Which movie brought Hrithik Roshan to the limelight? What was Hrithik Roshan's first movie? Kaho Na Pyar Hai. So that sets the tone for this career, and that's when Hrithik Roshan came into the industry. The person that I'm going to introduce was none other than who's equally competent enough to compete against the Hrithik Roshan, but he cannot flex his muscles. But when he has got a small cap fund, which can flex his muscles much beyond what a Hrithik Roshan can do. Let me invite Mr. Vishal Kapoor, who is the CEO of Bandhan Mutual Fund, and who's also the Hrithik Roshan of financial services industry. Thank you.
Mr. Hariharan from the EC team or Vice President to honor Mr. Vishal with a bouquet.
Hello. Yeah, I hope I'm audible at the back. Okay. So firstly, really heartfelt thank you to IFPF for inviting me back again. It's always a pleasure, but you're always waiting whether you'll get the chance and opportunity once again or not. So I'm really delighted to be here. And what was also very delightful was the theme that I saw, Rise. I think it is just such an appropriate theme for the times that we are living in. So one of my thoughts for the session today was really to build on the theme of why we need to redefine, why we need to innovate, and why it's more important today than maybe a few years in the past, because many of us have been in the industry for some years, so why that is maybe more important today than in the past. How many of you have heard or read the book, Who Moved My Cheese? Many of you. Okay, so you know what I'm going to talk about. We're going to talk about change and how we may want to manage change. And why would we be able to speak about change? Change is because, as you know, Bandhan AMC itself has been changing, and therefore it makes us maybe a bit more qualified to talk about change, because we started out as an organization 25 years back, so it's proud to be with an organization that's 25 years old. And over the journey, we were Grindlays Mutual Fund, became Stanchart Mutual Fund, became IDFC Mutual Fund, and then eventually Bandhan Mutual Fund. So we've managed some change, is the point. And one thing that we realized is that with the same set of teams, principles, etc., that have continued right through, that actually change has been very good. Because with every change, you learn a lot of things. And when you learn a lot of things from the sponsors, from the promoters, from the shareholders, etc., it accumulates. So it is an addition to how we will be able to move forward. So that's been quickly a journey of change from 2000 to 2025. And you'll see that we've managed and absorbed change. And every stage, I think, has made us only stronger than where we were before. And during this process, and of course, currently, these are our shareholders. So sometimes we get asked that you are a subsidiary of Bandhan Bank. Actually, we have three very strong shareholders. GIC Singapore is a very well-respected institutional investor, the sovereign fund for government of Singapore. Chris Capital, a very highly successful private equity investor in India. And Bandhan Group, of course, who's a sponsor. Three different shareholders bringing their strengths to us is what we are really proud of as well. As a snapshot, we crossed about 2 lakh crores recently. We are looking to grow more aggressively. And since becoming Bandhan, we've actually had the benefit of growing very rapidly. So over the last 3 years, March 23 to March 26, I'm just sharing some numbers of how change has actually helped us accelerate rather than get bogged down with what is happening around us. So in terms of things like monthly gross AUM, equity AUM growth, number of live SIPs, SIP growth, you'll see that in 3 years, most of these numbers have actually tripled, 3x or 4x or 5x or 6x in this period. Of course, the industry's done well, and thanks to all of you to have supported us. What we've also done is actually expanded our product range. We spoke about earlier AIFs and SIFs. So yes, we do think that these are interesting products. So from being predominantly a mutual fund house, we think we are now a full stack asset manager. We've got Vidarth, which is our AIF PMS platform, where we offer both equity as well as debt products. We've got SIF through Aruda SIF, so that's our SIF platform. And we've also got a branch in Gift City. So we're able to accept money and market India to a lot of our overseas investors. And so that's just a snapshot of how we've been able to benefit from the change. Some of the things sometimes it's also asked about is that, people have noticed the spark in our equity performance over the last 4 or 5 years. And what is the change in that area? And sometimes you learn from the various mistakes, challenges that you've made or people around you are making. And what we thought was, and I think most equity managers will appreciate and agree, is that there is the art that the fund manager brings, but a lot of the equity management process is a science. And a framework is important to manage risk. So like any good batter who comes to the pitch and first takes guard, our framework actually asks us to look at risk first before we start the investing process. So the framework is very simply start with the risk management, which is what is GUARD stands for. And then you look at research to empower your fund managers. So over the years, we've seen over the last 3 years, the stock coverage that we have more than doubled from 336 to 703 stocks just after this change has happened, which allows the fund manager to actually look at a much wider range of schemes, stocks to actually choose from. Empower is really giving flexibility to fund manager. You have to let the batter express their style. You can't actually sit on the sidelines and tell them what to do on the field. And award and teamwork is about how you recognize and how you build on each other. So these are some of the things that we have done to have an equity framework which we feel very, very confident about. And it shows up in results. So when we look at how our schemes have done, this is just a simple pictorial to see how we've been doing over the years. And you'll see that our 5-year, 3-year, and more recent performance have actually been very steady, not just in 1 or 2 schemes, but actually across a whole range of schemes. So many of them are turning to become dark green or light green, which is either quartile 1 or quartile 2, across much shorter periods as well, apart from the longer period. So this is just to give you a sense of how change can be used to your advantage as well. It's not something we should should worry about in a sense. So moving on to the book, Who Moved My Cheese, which talks about change, as many of you have pointed out. So what is changing in our environment? And in one sense, you can say that everything is changing. But a very significant change that is happening is in the client. And therefore, we have to think about or question the concept of, sorry, this doesn't seem to. Okay. Is the way the client is changing. When I say the client is changing, many of you will appreciate that the way we used to interact with the client has traditionally been face-to-face. We will go to their home or office, interact with them, sit across the table. And more, I think you've already appreciated that everything's happening either on the phone or the internet or on the mobile. And that's a fundamental behavioral change that we should maybe stop and reflect upon on what is that telling us about the new client, the new generation that we have to work with. So just as a thought, we've done well, MFDs have done well. And over the last 6 years, this is 2020 to FY26 data, our AUM has grown by 16% compounded. Very, very good for any business. But at the same time, fintech AUM has grown at 3 times that rate, 3 times that rate. So think about that. So we've done well, but fintechs have done 3 times our growth rate. Just to give you another example, just one industry player, and before you ask who, this is available data, therefore I'm sharing it. one fintech player now accounts for almost half of new SIPs that come into the industry. Let it sink in. One player accounts for half the new SIPs that are coming into the industry. It also accounts for almost 20%, 1 in 5, of new customers that are coming into the industry, new individual customers. And sometimes you have to then ask the question that why are investors preferring fintechs? What's really going on? Is it that the onboarding is very easy? Is it that the UI, UX, or the product discovery, or the instant portfolio reviews that they're able to give you are very, very strong, very powerful? Is it that it is low-cost execution alone that is driving this change? What is going on which is leading our investors to prefer fintechs over us, if that is the takeaway from some of this data? So often when I speak to our MFD friends, partners, associates, I think 2, 3 concerns generally come across. The first of them is that I think direct plans is growing. So what will happen to my business? And margins are shrinking also. So do I really have a future in this business? It's also that you're competing against larger, well-scaled up distributors. There's a lot of private equity and other investments available, so people are investing more and more and more. So as an individual MFD, will I be able to face that sort of competition that is coming? And largely, business is becoming very complex. We were just having a discussion yesterday about a small change, small in maybe a regulator's mind, of a small accounting change of TR to BR, and look at the amount of work that it adds. So work is becoming very, very complex. Nothing is simple. Ease of doing business is becoming unease of doing business increasingly, because there is a lot of regulatory burden or administrative burden, etc. And technology was supposed to solve all of this, but somehow we are not experiencing it. So what is going on? Now, in all of these concerns, and I'm not here to solve all of these for you, we also have to look at what is the opportunity today. So what can we do about it? And there are some things that make today, more specifically today, a lot more attractive than we think. Why is that? And Ashok shared just 5 minutes back that the fact that actually in the last 1 year, the markets have not been very good. Right? We've actually had a challenge with customers coming back and saying, I'm not making returns. Typically, when markets are not good, customers are unhappy, and unfortunately, the burden of bearing the brunt of their unhappiness will fall on us, all of you. That is happening. Actually, it's not just 1 year. Even if you extend it to 2 years, it's a similar picture. So even over 2 years, it's been flat. But the point is that cycles actually create opportunities for us. And I'm not talking about an investor's opportunity. I'm not talking about how a fund manager will catch the cycle. Question is, as an MFD, how can you catch the cycle and the opportunity that the market is giving you right now? Because think about the customer's journey in this cycle. And if we generally agree that the last 4-5 years have largely been bullish, from 20 onwards, people have moved online, they made money, and there's a lot of frenzied action in the market. Typically, what happens in a bull market is that everyone's making money. And if everyone's making money, it's very easy for a do-it-yourself investor behavior to actually taste success. And the more success you taste, the more app-led investing becomes popular, because it's so easy to select a fund or a stock and buy it and make money. Right? Maybe, and it's just a thought, maybe that is what has been happening over the last 4-5 years. Right? So in that sense, what we may be going through today, which is consolidation, correction phase, may be very healthy, may be exactly what the doctor ordered, because that's the phase when you realize that making money is not as easy as just clicking a few buttons based on a few research reports that you read. Or you ask now ChatGPT, which is the best fund, it told you and you bought it and you made money. And isn't that the time that true value to quality should come to the fore, to come up front? And if that is what we offer, all of us, isn't this the best time to actually grab more business, grab clients, go and talk to these clients who've actually moved, thinking investing is so easy as just clicking a few buttons and then continuing on that journey. Now, the other benefit of being very aggressive right now in terms of going out and meeting clients and acquiring new customers is that once a customer has gone through this cycle of consolidation and then moving up, this new customer is actually now much more mature. So their expectations in the future are far easier, far better. Right? Because the next time there is a wobble, they are not going to maybe make those calls that they were making in the past for you. Right? And I'm sure that many of you have seen the cycles and you experienced that once you had a customer who went through, let's say, 2008 or 2013, 14 or 2018, that is not the customer who's going to keep calling you every time the market wobbles a bit. It is the customer who you've acquired over the last 3 years who's going to be very worried. So actually, this is a great time for us to acquire new customers. This is not the time to be defensive. Sometimes that can happen because the portfolios are not looking very good. This is the time to be really active, be out there, and help these customers who have overnight thinking that they become fund managers because it's so easy to click and buy and make money. Now, how do we go about doing it is the other part of the question, which is what can we offer that is so differentiated? And I'm not taking away from your individual business. Of course, you have your business, you have your quality, skills, etc. But I think if I were to look at what are some of the common challenges that I see, and therefore, possibly some solutions we can think about. Maybe we can discuss that as well. So what can you do? What needs to be done? See, if I look back at where a traditional MFD used to add value, and many of us have done this for so many years, and I think it'll resonate with you. Firstly, it is about creating awareness, telling them what a mutual fund is, how open-ended funds work, what a NAV is, how a statement is, growth plans and income plans, etc., etc. Then it was also about product selection. So which fund to buy. So once you've done the concept selling of mutual funds, you tell them about which fund to buy, how to go about doing it. And then the last step is typically about servicing, documentation, KYC, doing the transaction, right? So this is largely what we used to do, or what we are doing today. Concept selling, product selection, and then eventually doing the transaction and doing the servicing on an ongoing basis, right? Now pause a minute and look at the newcomer that is coming into the industry as an investor today, right? Is this value enough for this new customer? Creating awareness. He'll tell you mutual fund sahi hai before you open the mouth mutual fund, right? He'll tell you this ad, this, that, and the other. And anything and everything research is available now in his pocket. So how much of concept selling can we do for many of these new customers who are coming in, who have access to all this knowledge, right? You'll tell him product selection, I can help you select a product. You will again go onto any platform and it will give you all analytics that you want on a fund. It will tell you ratios that you've also not heard about. It will tell you. Right? So how much product knowledge can you give in this environment where all of this is available in your pocket? Same thing for KYC or transaction execution, servicing, portfolio statement. Try any of these apps. Right? It's at a click of a button, very smooth. So no wonder all these investors are very enamored and it's very easy to do. So isn't that therefore the time for us to think, how do we redefine the value we provide to this investor? Because if we keep doing what we were doing in the past, this new investor, this new age investor who's growing up almost on apps is possibly not going to be impressed. So what can we do? To our mind, the value going forward is still very, very critically with you. And to us, the first is that knowledge has to be much deeper than maybe the superficial sort of headlines that a lot of the apps and the articles can give you. Because keep in mind, the oversimplification of finance sometimes can lead to a misunderstanding of also what to expect. And that difference is something you can uniquely bring. So you have to go beyond the headlines and the charts and go deeper. And therefore you have to invest. We all have to invest in our own knowledge. Because without that, our ability to compete with the apps is going to be a challenge. And keep in mind, it was the apps in the past. It's going to be AI of the future. So we have to benchmark ourselves and say, if the same question that your customer is asking me today, if they were to ask an AI app, is the answer that the app giving better or worse than what I will be able to offer? And if it is better, we have a lot of work to do. So we have to be 2 levels ahead of what an AI scan will be able to give the customer as a response to any of this. And can we do that is the question. And the second is that all of you know that personal finance is more about the person than the finance. So a lot of what we do is about behavior management. And that, I think, is a very important part of where we should focus on, because end of the day, can the app help you manage behavior? Or can the AI bot manage the human psychology that you can manage? And isn't that our sharpest edge? So think about it. There are a lot of things we can do that a bot or an AI will still struggle to do. So let's not underestimate, because sometimes we can feel looking at, I'm sure in our personal life, all of us have also used these AI apps. The language makes it very authoritative. But the quality and depth of content is where I think the difference will be made. If we were to just think about how we can put a framework to where we can focus, to our mind, knowledge is about the environment, it's about product, it's also about regulations and operations. Because often the small details are missed out, and that's where the devil lies. So your understanding of regulations, environment, product, and processes can be unique than what many of the tech-enabled processes will be able to offer. And behavior management, I think that is clearly an area that you could focus on. And that's something that tech will ideally struggle with. Now, actually, you don't have to do this on your own, because I'm sure most AMCs offer you a lot of material. And I think, therefore, I'm delighted that IFP organizes this, because this is about learning from each other. So whatever we have learned, we can share. What you're learning, you can share with us. Just an example, if I was to reflect on what we do as a partner, just as one AMC as an example, for environment, we have daily newsletters, we have videos of our fund managers, CIOs talking about it. For products, again, whether it's a category or individual product, we've also adopted from, earlier used to have newsletters and presentations. Now we have videos and little reels, etc. That it's much easier. That's why the customer prefers all of this. And regulations, again, we have monthly webinars, calls on topics that are generally areas that you might get troubled with. So the last Bandhan is the monthly session that our ops and compliance team runs. We talked about how the entire invoice raising process on BR could be done in a more efficient manner. So it's an actual hands-on tool where it will show you what you can do, how to download, how to upload, how it can be done with a fewer clicks than doing it individually. So these are practical sessions that you can look at. So these are, again, tools available. I'm just inviting you to keep using these tools, because that is your edge going forward. These are the areas that really differentiate from how a tech platform may be able to compete with you. So the question, therefore, comes back to, is in the age of AI, in the age of fintech, going forward, will the individual MFD still be relevant? And I think if you were to do a summary of what we've been speaking about, firstly, the data there is already telling us that the behavior of investors coming through MFDs or regular plans is far better than what we see through direct investing. So, in a nutshell, our direct investors having a better experience than regular plan investors? The answer seems to be no, because look at some of these data points. So clearly, the direct investor, the DIY investor, is not necessarily a happy investor. They've just gone into that area, and that's your opportunity. Your investor is probably a happier investor because they have been able to invest and generate wealth over a longer term. And maybe the DIY investor, at least the data, doesn't seem to indicate that they've actually had a better outcome. You've seen the data on FNO also. This is just mutual fund data, but FNO also. 94, 95% of investors lost money. Only a few of them were able to barely get their capital back. 1% of investors made money, and those are largely institutions. So it's a very lopsided experience for a lot of DIY customers. So if you look at product discovery, I think, yes, a lot of fintechs can do product discovery equally well. But when it comes to other aspects like risk profiling, answering a few questions versus understanding what the risk experience, expectations, etc. is of a person, that is unique to you. Goal alignment, answering a few calculator-based questions versus truly understanding what is this family after, that is uniquely you. That's not something that a fintech questionnaire is able to do. And most importantly, asset allocation, again, same thing, a cookie-cutter asset allocation, for donkey's years that has been done. But truly understanding how do you build a true portfolio to actually meet the expectations of this customer, that is uniquely you. So combining products, not that simple. It can't be, everything cannot be programmed. But most importantly, behavioral understanding is only you. It's not only uniquely you, it is only you. That is where I think the big edge between how the current experience seems to be versus what your edge is, seems to us as a key thing. Now, as we grow, I think one of the other points I want to leave with you, especially this hall, because these are all senior MFDs. So as we grow, so does our responsibility. And keep in mind that our responsibility is collective, because if any one of us makes a mistake, all of us suffer, unfortunately. Because then we get a bad name as a community. And then we unfortunately have more regulations to deal with, because it is very natural that regulators will come and ask us to do more because something has slipped. Let's not forget, this is savers' hard-earned money that we are dealing with. So there is no room for being sloppy or being cute about. So there's no shortcuts in this business. The 3-4 areas that at least we see as areas a lot of MFDs struggle with. Sometimes it is as simple as registration, just maintaining your registration status. So we are towards the end of June. How many of us have not done our annual DSC? Everyone knows what a DSC is? Yeah? You'll be surprised how many requests we get after June saying, oh, I missed the deadline. Now, it's a very simple 5-minute requirement to certify that, yes, I'm in business, I want to continue doing business. And you've been given a 90-day grace period. You've been given so many reminders over mail. And yet, we are not taking it seriously. Right? So it's as simple as that. 3 years later, ARN has expired, nothing has been done. So we have to be more diligent than that. Appropriateness, suitability. Now there is central monitoring of transactions, and repeatedly we find that inappropriate combinations pop up. And when we ask the MFD that how is this transaction appropriate for this customer, the answers are very flaky, if I can call it. It's not convincing at all. So sometimes we feel, no, my job is only to do the transaction, not to actually do any appropriateness. Customer wanted this. The regulatory ask on this is that the customer wanted this is to be treated as an execution-only transaction, not an advised transaction or an appropriate transaction. And there's a different process for that. So these are things we have to know, that it is not something that we can shirk away later on, saying, oh, we did the transaction, I don't know why. So not allowed. Advertising, promotions, incentives, there are rules around it. So sometimes we either disregard the rule or we ignore the rules. Or we are not aware of the rules. And as they say, awareness of or ignorance of law is not a defense. So this is our law. So that is something we have to follow. Transparency, code of conduct. Did we disclose all the requirements that we had to be done? These are things that we regularly see, challenges coming up. So this is just a thought about saying, while there is a lot of opportunity, it's important that on this highway, we don't have roadblocks and accidents. So there is a highway in front. We can all reach a great amount of distance very successfully, but we have to drive carefully. We cannot be doing things that are not right. Now, we are not alone. There is a lot of resources available. I'd request and I really urge that if you're in doubt, go to the Amphi India site. There is a distributor corner there. A lot of these documents and resources are available. You can download, use freely. Right? So as simple as all the circulars that relate to MFDs is available in a master circular. And there are summaries that are also available. There are things that are outside the circular that are interpretative. That what can I do in terms of incidental advice? What is allowed, what is not allowed? These are again things that are available in either the do's and don'ts or the FAQs or the Ready Reckoner that is available. There are also training programs that Amphi conducts. There is a knowledge series that is there. So I would say that keep an eye out. There's a lot of resources there. Because keep in mind, if collectively we are on top of this, then we will make sure that there are no accidents, and we can also keep rising, which is the theme that we have. So just to end the program, I think, I had just one thought that, So we do not win by promising returns. The investor is not going to win by promising returns. I know it is a very simple thing to do. Because if you ask me as an investor, what do I want? I want high returns without any risk. But life is not so simple. We will win because we can get investors invested and stay invested for the right reason. So I think if we can just focus on keeping the investor invested for the right reason, we can all win. And I loved also the theme Rise, because the organization's motto is also Barte Raho, which is keep rising, keep progressing. With that, I know I'm out of my time, so thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Vishal. Please be on the dais, actually. See, I think many of us would have read this book, Who Moved My Cheese, which is written by Mr. Spencer Johnson. I don't know whether he's moved the cheese, and I'm sure Mr. Vishal has moved the entire cheese factory to Chennai. So I've got enough cheese that is left so I can melt the maximum out of it, and thanks a lot for this thought-provoking session. Thank you. Let me invite Mr. Cholai, and when you felicitate someone who's a tall person in the industry, we need someone who's equally tall. So we've got Mr. Cholai from Coimbatore, though he's from small city, but he's very tall as a personality.